Hey, welcome, folks. So glad to have you with me. This is NYC Radio Live. My name is David Ellenbogen, and this is to date, I think, going to be the best podcast I've ever produced. You ever feel like you've been in on something from the beginning? Well, if you've been listening to this podcast, you have. We started broadcasting our collaborations with the Brooklyn Raga Massive in 2012, and somehow in the past 3 months, the steady ascension turned into a rapid climb with these two sold out concerts at the Ruin Museum, and then the latest was this stunning tribute to John Coltrane, which was organized by Sameer Gupta, and we will be speaking with him. But wow, it was just so moving. This was better recorded than average because it was at Pioneer Works. The place was sold out. It was like over 500 people there. You know, a lot of the things we've been playing on this podcast have had much smaller audiences, except for all of you in whatever countries you're at checking out, but sometimes it's only 40, 50 people in the room. So it was very moving to see a capacity crowd in this beautiful, inspiring space, Pioneer Works, and an incredible job by Sameer Gupta, who was the musical director and the visionary behind all this. And we'll be speaking with him on the podcast. I agonized over where to break up the music in order to insert the interview, and it's just all so moving that I thought I would wait till the very end, and then we'll listen to the words from the maestro behind this whole project. But this is it. I mean, for me, as a big Alice Coltrane fan, as a person who's actually I've helped organize quite a few Coltrane birthday events over the years with Ravi, his son Ravi, a couple years in a row back in the day, and I've had a lifelong search for where raga and jazz intersected, and I think it just doesn't get any better than this. So, without further ado, here are the Brooklyn Raga Massive. I should mention the lineup here. Alright, that's Sameer Gupta on Drumset and Tabla. The incredible Brandee Younger on Harp, who's totally keeping it alive. The torchbearer of the Alice Coltrane tradition. Gandhi, no stranger to you guys, on Bansuri. The great Arun Ramamurthy on violin. Pawan Benjamin on saxophone. Trina Basu on violin. Neel Murgai on sitar. Tyree on guitar. Rashaan on bass. Michael Gam, also on bass. 2 stand-up basses, that's points electric. And then Roopa Mahadevan came in on vocal. Anupam Shobhakar came in on Sarod. Jessica Lurie played some saxophone. Dawood Kringle came in and sat in on Dilruba. Our friend Ken Shoji played violin. And the man who always brings the spirit, Giancarlo Luigi on shakre and percussion. So here you go. As I said, I feel this is as good as it gets. Brooklyn Raga Massive's tribute to the Coltrane Legacy.
happiness did reign, 'cause each man knew his worth. And in my heart now I yearn for that spirit's return, and I cry as time flies.
Thank you so much, everyone. Pyeng Threadgill, Roopa Mahadevan, Brandee Younger, Ben Tyree, Rashaan Carter, Michael Gam, Jay Gandhi, Arun Ramamurthy, Pawan Benjamin, Neel Murgai, Giancarlo Luigi, I'm Sameer Gupta, bunch of guest artists, Brooklyn Raga Massive, Pioneer Works, John Coltrane.
Wow. Or as in India they say, wah. I told you, right? Absolutely stunning performance. The tunes you heard out of order, they played Alice Coltrane's Turiya and Ramakrishna, and they played her Blue Nile, and they played her song Journey in Sachidananda, and they also played John Coltrane's Alabama and Central Park West and Naima and Pharoah Sanders' The Creator Has a Master Plan. I think that's all the tunes. Oh, and John Coltrane's India and Africa. So, incredible night of music. You heard Sameer Gupta on the drum set and the tabla, Brandee Younger on the harp, Jay Gandhi on Bansuri, Arun Ramamurthy on violin, Pawan Benjamin on sax. I thought he did such a brilliant job of handling that tall order of being the sax player on a Coltrane tribute. Really sensitively and subtly handled. Anyway, inserting like a little bit of the Coltrane various languages that he created at various times. Trina Basu, that great solo to start the show, and Neel Murgai, who figured out how on sitar to get the sound of the tanpura. Alice's Journey in Sachidananda. Ben Tyree, great guitarist. I've known him so long and I didn't know his true nature of his virtuosity. He really held back on us. Rashaan Carter and Michael Gam on the double, both playing acoustic basses and electric bass really beautifully together, and that's something that Coltrane really explored, was two bass players. Roopa Mahadevan, who came in last minute and did a great job leading the vocals on Creator Has a Master Plan. Oh, along with Pyeng Threadgill sat in on that song as well. And who else played? Jessica Lurie came in with a great strong sax solo. Dawood Kringle had a great solo on the Dilruba. And Giancarlo Luigi always lights it up on shakere and percussion. So at this time, we're going to bring in the conversation recorded with Sameer Gupta. I was asking him about what Alice Coltrane meant to him as a musician coming up.
Yeah, Alice, to me, she was really, I kind of got introduced to her music. I think it was really through like Journey in Sachidananda, but I also got really psyched about Patada El Daoud, and I thought that record was absolutely brilliant. And I really...
Who's on that one?
It's Joe Henderson and let's see who else is on. I think it's Ron Carter.
Is it Ben Riley on drums or no?
think it might be Ben Riley on drums, possibly. He's on a few Alice records. I can't remember the exact lineup, but I remember that song Patada El Daoud, which I thought was just like awesome.
Right.
You know,
That's a dum.
it's like dum 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 dum. It's like this march kind of.
Okay.
And then you had on a very early record that I put out in 2002 with a group called The Supplicants. It was a band that I'd started in the Bay Area in California. On our second record, we did that song, and part of that time in my life, I was really, really excited about Alice's music and the spiritual jazz element of it. And I remember going down to LA to her like annual Coltrane celebration and saw her perform, and I actually got to meet her face to face just in the midst of the crowd.
Wow.
There was like an incident where like I was like trying to sort of get to the stage, or maybe I was just like trying to get in the area she was at, and she was leaving the stage and all these people were like around her, and she basically ended up crossing paths, that her crowd ended up crossing paths with me, and I ended up right in the middle of it. I was right in front of her, and I didn't know what to do, you know, so I touched her feet, you know, I took pranam, you know, I really told her that her music was very beautiful to me, and I actually gave her my record. I was like, had it there, and so it was really a special moment, and I think that for me, like, her music really represents something that's like a little bit raw in the spirit, you know, in the soul, like something that's maybe not totally pristinely worked out through like hours and days and years of practice, right? Like something like a classical musician or like a, you know, or like a raga musician, you know, it's like it sounds like they have so much like control. And then when I started hearing Alice at first, I was like, wow, it just sounds like she's kind of like barely hanging on sometimes. Like it's just such an out sound, you know, it's just like really on the outskirts of what I was hearing, you know. And now when I listen to Alice, I'm very different. My ears evolved, and I can appreciate her level of control and her level of like execution and her ear even, you know. But it's still unlike anything I've ever heard. And so for me, that also says a lot as far as an artist. Anyone who can kind of, like the second you can put on their record, you can know immediately who it is, even if you've never heard that song before. Like you can just hear from their touch.
Instant.
Yeah.
Instant. And I'm going to close this door.
Yeah.
I was telling you about this record I'm going to kick you, which is her on piano jazz, Marion Ricciardo.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And what I learned from that is her whole aesthetic is accomplished in a single note.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, she plays with so many people, and they paint this like incredible. Somehow, it's a very Eastern kind of portrait of sound. Really, it's like so lush, and she just does it by herself on the piano right away. You're like, oh my God, that's Alice Coltrane. I mean, part of it is approaching the piano like a harp. I would say.
Yeah, totally. I was going to say the same thing. I think that connects it somehow. I mean, not like either of those instruments are associated with Eastern music at all, but for some reason her like nature or something like breathes out this, to me, like a sense of the East and India, you know what I mean? Like, and it's really amazing to me when I think about John Coltrane and his life and how he went through so many evolutions. It's like really amazing to think about how that he connected with a woman like that, and, you know, opened up even more of my interpretation of how Indian music and India is connected with Coltrane's music. You know, like for our Coltrane tribute, I made a deliberate point of doing a few Alice Coltrane songs, you know. Yeah. And I think that not a lot of people would necessarily put those on the menu for a Coltrane tribute. They just say John Coltrane, and you know, there's so much material right there. Yeah. So there was a real deliberate attempt to kind of like select the songs, I think, that accentuated that connection.
Yeah. I actually just thought of another sense in which him and her music is Indian. And this is a story I got not from Alice, but Alice told this guy the story. He passed it on to me. This guy is helping turn her house in Huntington, Long Island, into a museum.
Oh, yeah. I heard about
we
that.
Should work,
definitely.
We should work with them.
Yeah.
And he said that Alice told him that upstairs in Huntington, Long Island, he spent like a week doing, I don't know what you would call it, but the type of Indian practice where someone just leaves food for you outside your door, and you're on your own for like 6 or 7 days, you know, but your needs are taken care of. You know, obviously he was doing a lot of meditating, which was important to him, and he emerged beaming with sheet music in his hands.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a love supreme.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, I never really put that together as another sense that he had. So for you, I hear it even in his free stuff. I hear something of that same mission almost. I don't know if you feel the same way. Like,
well, I mean, I think that I definitely hear it in the connection of like meditation. You know? To me, that meditation is a process where you sort of turn inward and you feel the infinite. And I think that for his later music, I think that Coltrane really, went there, because like his sound was like just free of any tethers. Like it was just like completely, like you were just in outer space. Like, you know what I mean? It felt that way at times, but in a way, outer space is like such a silent place, and so it's like it's odd to think that there would be that kind of music happening in outer space. But to me, it's like that's where it takes me. Like it takes me into the sense of the infinite. That limitless potential of like what is it that exists and what is reality and what is the universe. And it's just there is no limit. There's no understanding it. There's no trying to grasp it or put it into some sort of box. You know what I mean? And I think that that's what his music represented to me. It represented like, just totally a free spirit, And I think that when you see his attitude towards it, right, it's like that makes it even more meditative, like because he was such a calm person, right? Like he was like such a thoughtful person. He was so he was just very human in a way. You know what I mean? He was like he seemed like a type of person that you would, like Alvin said, like you would take a bullet for him. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of thing says a lot about his humanity, right? So I think that to see that in a person and then to see how they show this, limitlessness of colors in music and the sound, and it's just like still sheets of sound, but it's just like, oh my God, like what is going on? It's just like, it's even like you didn't think he could turn on the faucet of creative flow anymore, and he found some other levels. It's just like a waterfall suddenly of, sound. It's just like amazing. That's sort of where it takes me, and I think that Indian music to me has that sense of like a spectrum, right? So like it's a journey, and I think that when you start out, it's very calm and peaceful. When you get to the end, it feels like that ecstatic place where and a lot of times the level of virtuosity is like insane at that level. It's almost like they're not even people playing it. It's like their hands are going so fast, or they're blurring, and the precision is like, it's so hyper precise. It's just almost unworldly. It's like superhuman or something, and to witness that and to see it happen is like, I don't know. To me, it reminds me of meditation too. It makes me think about magic. It makes me think about like levitation and stuff. Like like I would wonder sometimes you could make like a little animated video with an Indian classical musician just playing at the end of a concert, and like you can feel like the energy escalating, and then they just start levitating. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you see them under their legs start to lift up.
That'd be pretty easy to pull off in cartoon form.
Yeah.
Get on there.
I think I saw it happen once.
In real life?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I believe it. Wow. And I think what you're saying right now about the infinite in something like an out free jazz type situation, which I also have to say, I felt in my early journey of producing music, I got thrown into producing a lot of free jazz concerts. In a way, it was a little hard for me because I'm like, they don't go after the audience in the way that I feel compelled to. Like, make everybody feel comfortable.
Right.
I
think that's a great point. I think that a lot of the free jazz movement came out of an era in humanity where like people were not comfortable, and being too comfortable was actually causing a problem in society. And I think I think that like a lot of it has to do with a sense of wanting to make everybody happy, which is it's also sort of a little bit too it's too easy, it's like that's not really why we're here. Even though we love making people happy and it's in our nature to do that, we can actually do more, and we can help people feel that like they're being expanded, and then potentially even more happiness can be achieved. And sometimes, even as we were talking earlier, sometimes it takes some harsh moments, and it sometimes takes putting someone out of their comfort zone But then the benefit of something like that is actually great. You know, you end up having a deeper relationship with something. And the same thing happens with music. You know, it took me a long time to appreciate Sun Ra. And I think that even though at a surface level, when I first heard Sun Ra, I was like, okay, like Sun Ra stuff sounds unique, and I love it for that.
Yeah.
I think later I started to really want to hear that sound. You know, I found it to be something, I didn't realize music could be like that.
Right.
And once I realized it later, I wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah.
You know, and I embraced that more. But maybe the initial process of it was very uncomfortable.
Also, I think it's a music that has to be experienced live. It's not really translated in recording. Like when you go to a free jazz an event, like say Sun Ra Orchestra, you're gonna experience a deliverance like going to a Pentecostal church if that's your thing. Like you're gonna get there. You're gonna be whipped into a frenzy in some kind of way, because that's the only way to survive almost. You're getting so much information thrown at you and so many new ideas.
It's tough to say. I mean, I think I've listened to some Sam Rivers records that I feel like I hear like fire coming out of it. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's so amazing. I feel like I'm there.
Right.
You know, there's something about that experience. You know?
But still, like, if one is trying to understand this music and they've never seen it live, what you're not, there's like a whole spiritual thing that you're not seeing, and like, and there's a reverence, you know, in the audience too. Like they get it. Like it's very shamanic, I would say. And if you're gonna listen to like shamans on record, you might be like, okay, I get it. It's like this pentatonic thing. Yeah, I get it.
Right. No, I think that there's, again, I think that in one thing I've learned is just that the listener and the person who's experiencing the music, like they are the only person who can define what it means. You know, it's kind of like interpreting a dream, right? It's like you're the only person that can actually say whether an interpretation is correct or not about a dream you have.
Right.
So to me, it's like, even if you're a really serious Indian jazz musician, let's say, right, and you listen to some Indian classical music, there'll be certain elements from your frame of reference that will make you sort of logistically, you have to understand it in the terms you know. So you're like, okay, it is a pentatonic. Sure.
Right. Yeah.
But the fact is there's a lot more going on there than just that.
Yeah.
And if you sort of can come on over and say, what's going on here? Like, I know that you guys are using a pentatonic, but that's not all I'm going to take out of here. I'm going to try and take something else. Then you start to appreciate the significance of those notes and the significance of how one moves between those notes and sort of what those motions mean. And those motions in Indian music are they're definitive, you know, like it's not even just about the notes, it's about what words are sung on those notes in what composition, and that you have to understand that context, you know what I mean? Without that context, you can understand it as a pentatonic. You know, you could understand it as something that's harmonically possibly like very simple harmonically. It's modal. Right. That's like, those are terms that seem simple only because in American or Western music, we should say, the harmonic complexity has gone through great evolution.
Even though,
And so for them, a modal piece, or a piece that only adheres to 5 pitches and doesn't change the bass, something like that seems very maybe basic. Right? But the fact is like that basic thing is a building block for a whole nother music from a whole nother part of the world that has reached high levels of improvisation and artistry and virtuosity. So when you think about those basic building blocks, you can't reduce those down to anything, right? They're the basic components, and everything is built on top of that. And so like you have to sort of be able to say, you have to come down to that level essentially, you know, as a listener and as a practitioner. I think as a musician, you have to come down to that level. I don't want to say anything is like down or beneath of something else, but when I say down, I mean you need to go down to the building blocks. You need to look that low, but you also need to lower yourself that low so that you're seeing it as somebody who appreciates
you're zooming
it. Yeah, and you appreciate that this is where it's starting, and now what's the next step up? What's the next step up? And now you see that, oh shoot, there's like a huge staircase that goes to the top of a tower, and this tower was built on only 5 pitches, maybe.
Generation, like Ravi Shankar was, from what I heard, actually disturbed by Coltrane's latest music. He didn't understand it. He said it sounded angry. He didn't get it. Understandably, you know, because I mean, if people haven't heard really late period Coltrane, it's all in there.
including.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a little bit oversimplifying something to just say it's angry. In the same way, in the same way, Indian classical music sometimes I feel like is oversimplified by saying that a raga is romantic, right? It's like, whatever. Like, who said that it was romantic? Like, just you clearly feel maybe some romance. Right. Maybe Ravi Ji had like an angry. Maybe he had a bad day when he heard that or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I mean, in some situations, I think he maybe wouldn't feel that way. Depending on maybe the context that he was coming to it with. Right. And I think that, for me, that's the sort of level of respect that it takes to really like bring these worlds together. You know what I mean? Like, I agree with you that like those are, that's like a thing that keeps these, it's clearly an example of how these worlds are not seeing each other, right? Because like in one side of the fence, this free jazz, quote unquote, cacophonous noise music is looked at as very beautiful and very like liberating and spiritual. But then when someone from the Indian classical world looks at that, it's very confusing, and they're like, well, what the heck is this? It sounds just like noise, So we can definitely appreciate both sides of the fence, but there is a disconnect, right? And I think that for me, a lot of like my mission, and I think a lot of the mission with a lot of the musicians we play with, David and Raga Massive, I think it's really to have there be a genuine sort of representation of this music in both places, right? Which involves deep appreciation, it involves respect, it involves like dialogue, and it involves research and exploration. It involves really studying this stuff. And I think a lot of the musicians we work with are serious jazz musicians and serious musicians on other traditional musical forms in other parts of the world. And then you have a ton of great musicians who are serious about Indian classical music. I would say like 90%, 95% of the Raga Massive crew are like seriously into Indian classical music. And I think that is something you're finding in this generation, right? Which is that like these, like you think about the term fusion, right? And fusion is kind of like, oh, well, we're putting this with this, cool, we fuse them together, right? Now, like think about that as a person, right? Like, you're not fusing two people together to create a new person, right? If you were to define this new person, it would be so offensive to just say like, oh, you are a fusion of this person and this person. Right? Like that would just, to me, that would really bother me. I'd be like, you're really missing a ton of who this person is. You know what I mean? And to me, like the music is like that. Like in our generation, this music that from different parts of the world, it's all coming together in us as people. Like when we're playing a Raga Massive show, you're gonna hear like some funk music possibly. You're gonna hear some Indian classical music. You're gonna hear some like music that has kora, right? Or music that has like recorder. Like all kinds of different instruments are going to come in, and the love and like the genuine respect and understanding of like this musical language, trying to bring it all together in a real heartfelt, genuine, human way. I think that's what essentially carries it through these difficult waters of how things are different, how the miscommunication is happening, why is there a disconnect, how is there a disconnect, how is it that cacophonous music and really out of tune music is looked at as beautiful by other people, and how is it looked at as beautiful that this music is noise by some other people, you know what I mean? Like these kinds of questions are there, but the thing that'll really get us to the resolution will just be essentially a real deep appreciation of these styles and how they can come together, right? And that happens in these musicians. It happens in the like artists who we're playing with in Brooklyn and stuff.
Yeah, my favorite moments from these concerts were when one person in the band, a couple times, like Pawan Benjamin, who I thought handled the role so tastefully.
Yeah, at the Coltrane thing?
Yeah. He would just throw in a hint of a different language that Coltrane spoke, because he invented a lot of languages musically. And he'd just throw in a little bit of like, this is Coltrane's like kind of free thing, or, and instantly Jay Gandhi would pick up on it, because Jay is very deep into Coltrane, and Jay understands that language. And then Arun would pick up on violin, he'd pick up on that language, and it was like that level of respect for the other quote side of the music. That's what I've never heard done before between Indian and jazz music, and my experience of searching for it. This new generation that it's really who they are.
I think that's it. It's not even like you don't think that it's anything other than just the music that these people are playing, because it just has that it just has that like honest sort of humanness about it. You know what I mean? Like to me, it's really like when I think about the generations that have led to this point, I think about how like there was an early on stage of sort of orientalizing the music of this quote unquote other place. And then there was a generation which was like really going over there then in person and getting into it. Like I'm talking about like John McLaughlin or even like Steve Gorn is a good example. John McLaughlin, that era, and Shakti and everything. But and the virtuosity of course made it so that it was closer. It was way closer. Yeah. And when you think about even, and I have a 4-year-old daughter, so I always think about like, you know, families and I'm like, and that's sort of when some young guy from America met some young girl in India or something, or vice versa. Right. And they got married and they had a kid, right? And then you have this generation essentially, right, where artists like John McLaughlin, Zakir Hussain, they're alive, right? They have kids, right? And these kids are now, they're totally in both places. They're in both worlds, right? It's like, you know, they're a child of two worlds, right? Yeah. So they're kind of like Spock, but like they have all the powers of both worlds, right? And you have to acknowledge that this is now one person, this is one life, and this is one thing that is not. You can't just reduce it as fusion, and you can't take it lightly either. You know what I mean? You have to like give it its due respect. These two rivers that have crossed, like they've come from somewhere. Yeah. And those things have created this thing that suddenly is like breathing and alive. And when it has heart and when it has depth, it's like it really comes out in the best way, right? And that's just really where it's just music. Somebody just hears it and they're like, I don't know what this is. Right. Is this Coltrane? Is this a raga? Right. This is awesome. Like it doesn't matter really. Hallelujah.
Wow, children of Spock.
Children of Spock. That's what we are.
Yeah, actually, that's a keeper.
All right, so that is our interview with Sameer Gupta, the musical director and dynamo behind this whole event. There's actually a beautiful video that I believe he edited like the next day or something. There'll be a link on the NYCRadiolive.org website. You can check that out. Go to BrooklynRagaMassive.com to find out about upcoming shows. There's at least one a week. And the music's on the ascent. It's a beautiful thing to watch and witness and be a part of. If you come, you're a part of it. If you listen, you're a part of it. So thanks for making it to the end of what is my new favorite podcast of the 160 or so that are up there. And yes, they say, take care of the music and the music will take care of you. I think that's true. So, thanks for listening. Catch you soon. Peace.